They say silence can be louder than words, a deafening echo in the empty halls of forgotten souls. Imagine two girls born into the heart of Prague, whose silence was not absence but a language of its own, a language that spoke of shadows, secrets, and a bond so deep it blurred the line between love and madness. From the moment they first opened their eyes, the world seemed to hold its breath, sensing something unnatural lurking beneath their quiet gaze. They never spoke to anyone else, communicating only through subtle gestures, a secret code no one could decipher. Their silence was not a choice but a curse, binding them together in a dance of death that would soon unleash terror on a city already scarred by history. As children, their bond was enchanting, a mysterious symphony of synchronized movements and whispered thoughts that outsiders could only glimpse in fleeting moments. But beneath the surface lay a darkness, an all-consuming obsession that twisted their reality into something sinister. Fires began to blaze in abandoned warehouses, mysterious disappearances plagued the streets, and when bodies were found, the city whispered their names with fear. The Silent Twins of Prague had begun their deadly duet, their actions choreographed by a madness that was both shared and indivisible. No one could predict the depths of their crime or the terror they would sow, and when the city finally turned its gaze upon them, the sisters remained silent, their lips sealed by a pact deeper than blood. Their story is one of silence and violence, love and destruction, a haunting tale etched into Prague's darkest nights. Listen closely, for in the quiet their voices still echo, a chilling reminder that sometimes the deadliest words are the ones never spoken. The twins were born in a crumbling neighborhood shadowed by old myths and whispered curses. Their parents, simple folk struggling to survive in a city still healing from war and political upheaval, noticed early that the girls did not cry or babble like other children. Instead, they seemed to communicate telepathically, exchanging knowing glances and finishing each other's thoughts without uttering a sound. This peculiar bond made the family uneasy but also fiercely protective, unaware of the storm gathering just beneath the surface. As they grew, Eliska and Zofie's silence became absolute. They refused to speak to anyone but each other, and even then their communication was subtle, almost hypnotic. Teachers reported a chilling synchronicity in their actions, their movements and responses perfectly mirrored, like two halves of a living whole. They excelled academically, showing brilliance beyond their years, but their social isolation grew, and whispers about the strange twins spread through the community. Neighbors recounted eerie tales of shadowy figures seen wandering the streets at night, always in tandem, always silent. When fires erupted in abandoned buildings on the city's outskirts, suspicion soon fell on the girls, but the evidence was scarce. Their silence in questioning was impenetrable, and with no confession, the police had little to hold on to. Yet the pattern was undeniable. Theft escalated to vandalism, and then to violence. The disappearance of a young man, last seen near the twins' home, sent Prague into a panic. The police investigation uncovered a trail of cryptic notes and symbols, all in the twins' private code, hinting at a disturbing world they shared alone. Psychiatrists who evaluated Eliska and Zofie described their condition as a rare form of shared psychosis, a fusion of minds so complete that one could not exist without the other. They exhibited a chilling unity in thought and deed, acting as one entity rather than two individuals. The city watched as the twins' influence spread, their silence a veil hiding motives and plans nobody could understand. When bodies began to be found in the Vltava River, arranged in strange patterns and accompanied by those same cryptic symbols, fear turned to horror. The Silent Twins were not just criminals, they were orchestrators of a dark ritual, their murders executed in unison with an almost supernatural precision. Arrested together, they offered no defense, no explanation, only a continued silence that seemed to mock the justice system. In the courtroom, their presence was haunting. Two identical figures, whose shared gaze could freeze a man's soul. The trial revealed little, but as the evidence mounted, a picture emerged of a relationship so intense and all-consuming that it defied reason. Experts debated whether they acted from madness, revenge, or a dark pact born of their shared silence. The verdict was life imprisonment, but the story did not end there. Inside the walls of the prison, the twins' bond grew stronger, their silence deeper. They communicated through blinks and subtle shifts, their minds entwined even in isolation. When one sister suddenly died under mysterious circumstances, the surviving twins' silence broke for the first time in years, speaking words soaked in grief and madness. Released decades later, the lone sister carried the weight of their crimes and the silence of her lost twin. Prague, forever marked by the shadows of the Silent Twins, whispers their legend still, a cautionary tale of love, twisted into violence, and the deadly power of silence. This is not just a story of crime, but of a connection so profound it became a prison, trapping two souls in a deadly dance that only ended when silence finally spoke. They moved through the shadows of Prague like two halves of a broken whole, their silence a language more potent than any spoken word. Eliska and Zofie's childhood was a maze of whispered secrets and unspoken thoughts. a world where the boundary between self and other dissolved into a terrifying unity. As the years passed, their actions grew darker, the city's ancient stones bearing silent witness to a descent into a horror both intimate and unfathomable. Their lives intertwined with the city's pulse. They became specters haunting alleyways and forgotten courtyards, their synchronized steps echoing the rhythm of a deadly symphony composed in silence. Each crime, each cruel act, was not the work of two but of a single fractured mind speaking through twin voices. The flames they set did not just burn buildings but the fragile trust of a community. The disappearances that followed were shadows cast long and deep, drawing the city into a web of fear and suspicion. Investigators found themselves ensnared in a labyrinth of cryptic clues and cold silence, unable to pry apart the enigma of the twins. In the courtroom, the air hung heavy with dread as the sisters sat motionless, their twin gazes locked in an eternal dialogue no one else could penetrate. Psychologists and experts debated endlessly over their shared psychosis, a condition where two minds fuse into one, blurring the lines between victim and perpetrator, love and violence. The sentence was inevitable, life behind bars, but even prison walls could not sever the dark thread binding Eliska and Zofie. Their silence deepened into something more profound, a communication beyond words, a terrifying communion that defied isolation. The mysterious death of one sister in custody shattered the fragile balance, releasing the surviving twins' voice into a haunting echo of grief and madness. The city of Prague, forever scarred by their story, carries their legacy in the hushed tones of legends and fears, whispered beneath the old bridges, and in the quiet corners where shadows linger longest. This is a tale not just of crime, but of an unbreakable bond twisted by darkness, a chilling reminder that sometimes, the most profound connections can become prisons of silence and blood. And as night falls over Prague, one can almost hear the silent sisters walking still, their footsteps a soft and deadly rhythm beneath the moonlit sky. Their footsteps echoed softly on the worn cobblestones of Prague's narrow alleys, a twin rhythm that seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a sinister heartbeat beating beneath the city's ancient facade. Eliska and Zofie had become something more than just sisters. They were an enigma wrapped in silence, their bond so absolute that it transcended the boundaries of ordinary existence. In their silence lay a darkness that the city would come to fear, a quiet horror that unfolded slowly, but with relentless inevitability. From the very beginning, the twins had been marked by a difference, a separation from the world around them. Where others saw two girls, they seemed to move and think as one. Their parents, simple folk caught between tradition and the shadow of modernity, had no answers for the strange language their daughters spoke, a language without words, made of glances and gestures, a secret code known only to them. Teachers found them a puzzle impossible to solve, children whispered rumors of ghosts in twin form, and neighbors gave their home a wide berth, unnerved by the oppressive silence that surrounded the family like a suffocating fog. But it was not just the silence that drew the attention of the city. It was the way that silence began to give way to violence. Small fires flickered at the edges of the city, extinguished quickly, but leaving behind the scent of smoke and fear. Objects disappeared from homes and shops, subtle acts of theft that escalated beyond simple mischief. The twins were always nearby, their pale faces watching silently, their presence a cold weight pressing down on the community. The first real horror came with the disappearance of a young man, last seen near the twins' house on a rain-slicked night. The city held its breath as the police uncovered a trail of clues, leading not away from but directly to the twins' shadowed world. Cryptic symbols scrawled on walls, notes written in their private language, and the eerie synchrony of their actions suggested a plan beyond mere crime. Psychiatrists who examined Eliska and Zofie spoke of a rare shared psychosis, a melding of minds that made the two indistinguishable in thought and deed. They acted in unison, a single consciousness split between two bodies, and when one spoke, the other finished the sentence as if they were two parts of one soul. The murders that followed were ritualistic, marked by strange symbols and patterns that seemed to mock the city's attempts to understand them. The bodies were placed with care, arranged to echo the eerie harmony of the twins themselves. When the girls were finally arrested, the city was gripped by a terror that was both primal and intellectual. How could two innocent-looking girls commit such atrocities? And what lay beneath their silence? A pact? A curse? Madness? In the cold courtroom, Eliska and Zofie remained mute, their eyes locked in a silent conversation that seemed to carry the weight of all their dark deeds. Their story was dissected in media and minds alike, but the truth remained locked behind their unyielding silence. Life imprisonment was the sentence, but even behind bars, the twins were never truly separated. Their minds remained entwined, communicating through subtle signs and shared dreams, their bond a prison and a refuge. When one sister died unexpectedly, the silence was broken, and the surviving twins spoke words soaked in sorrow and madness, revealing a fragment of the tortured reality they had shared. Prague's shadows still carry the echoes of their story, a chilling reminder that some silences are louder than screams, and that the deadliest bonds are those woven in shadows. The city of Prague, with its ancient spires and winding streets, seemed to hold its breath in the aftermath of the twins' downfall, as if the air itself mourned the loss of innocence so violently torn away. Eliska's solitary voice, fragile and haunted, rose from the depths of years spent in silence, offering glimpses into a world that few could imagine, one where two minds had merged into a single entity, bound by love and terror, joy and violence. Her words were not a confession but a lament, a peeling back of the layers of darkness that had enveloped their lives since birth. She spoke of a pact forged in childhood, a secret alliance that had promised protection but delivered madness. Their silence had been their shield against a world that rejected them, a world quick to label and dismiss what it could not understand. But the silence was also a prison, one that had trapped them in a cycle of destruction that neither could break alone. Psychologists listened with a mixture of fascination and horror as Eliska described the shared consciousness that had both sustained and destroyed them. She spoke of voices in her head that were not her own, memories that were not hers alone, and actions carried out in perfect unison with her sister. Actions that sometimes felt like the work of a stranger inhabiting her body. The city's people, still haunted by the twins' crimes, found little solace in her explanations. For them, the silent sisters had become legends of fear. Figures from a nightmare woven into the very fabric of Prague's history. Stories circulated of the twins' ghostly figures wandering the city at night. Their presence felt but never seen, a reminder that some horrors never truly die. The investigation into their crimes had uncovered a trove of disturbing evidence. Diaries filled with cryptic symbols, drawings depicting dark rituals, and maps marking sites of unspeakable acts. These artifacts hinted at a fascination with the occult and a belief in forces beyond the natural world. Forces that the twins had sought to harness or appease through their acts of violence. Scholars debated whether their crimes were motivated by madness, ritual, or a desperate attempt to communicate something beyond words. The police files, once sealed, gradually revealed a story of missed signs and ignored warnings, a community that had failed to see the warning signs until it was too late. Friends and family recalled moments that, in hindsight, took on a sinister significance. Whispered arguments in empty rooms, vanished possessions, and the ever-present shadow of silence that fell whenever the twins were near. As Eliska navigated the outside world alone, the weight of their shared past pressed down on her like a physical force. She was both survivor and prisoner, burdened with the knowledge of what had been done in her name and powerless to undo the harm. Her life was a study in contradictions, a desire for redemption shadowed by the inescapable bond to a sister now gone. A voice that could finally speak silenced by grief. The Silent Sisters' story became a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones, a reminder of the fragile line between love and madness, unity and loss. In the end, Eliska's voice, fragile yet persistent, was the only testimony to a bond so profound that it defied explanation and so dark that it destroyed everything it touched. Her words lingered like a ghostly echo, a final chapter in a story written not in ink but in silence and blood, a haunting reminder that some secrets are too terrible to tell and some silences too loud to bear. The passage of years did little to dull the sharp edges of the twins' legacy in Prague. The city, with its labyrinthine streets and ancient facades, remained a silent witness to the unsettling tale that had shaken its very core. For those who had lived through the nightmare, the memory of Eliska and Zofie was an ever-present shadow, a chilling reminder that darkness could thrive in the most unlikely places, hidden beneath the veneer of normalcy. Yet for the wider world their story was a mystery wrapped in silence, a haunting puzzle that defied easy answers. Scholars of psychology pored over the fragments left behind, the cryptic journals, the intricate symbols, the whispered testimonies of those who had known the twins before their descent into infamy. They debated the nature of the bond that had held Eliska and Zofie so tightly together, speculating on the possibility of shared psychosis, folie à deux, or a rare form of dissociative identity disorder manifested not within a single mind but across two. But none of these terms could fully capture the profound and tragic unity the sisters embodied, a unity that had become a force both protective and destructive, nurturing and annihilating. The twins' silence, once a source of fascination, took on new meaning as researchers explored the idea that their muteness was not simply a refusal to communicate, but a form of resistance against a world that had sought to control and define them. Their quietness was a rebellion, a refusal to submit to narratives imposed by outsiders, and a desperate attempt to maintain control over their own fractured reality. Meanwhile, the city's streets continued to whisper of the twins' presence. Local legends grew, morphing the sisters into figures of myth, ghostly apparitions seen fleetingly in the fog, shadows flitting through the narrow alleys, the soft echo of twin footsteps when no one else was near. These tales served as both warnings and reminders, cementing the twins' place in Prague's dark folklore. Eliska, now alone, moved cautiously through a world that was both familiar and alien. She carried the weight of her past like a shroud, the memories of shared crimes and shared silence intertwining in a painful tapestry. Attempts to reintegrate into society were met with fear and suspicion. her presence a stark reminder of the horrors once wrought. Yet beneath the fear there was a quiet resilience, a determination to confront the shadows rather than succumb to them. Therapy and solitude became her tools for survival. As she sought to untangle the threads of her identity from the twins' collective consciousness, she struggled to find a voice that was solely her own, to separate her thoughts and desires from the shadow of Zofie that still lingered in every corner of her mind. The journey was slow and fraught with pain, but it was also a testament to the human capacity for endurance and transformation. The story of the Silent Twins became a mirror reflecting broader themes of identity, trauma, and the complex nature of human connection. It challenged society to reconsider the boundaries of sanity and the ways in which love can both heal and destroy. It forced a reckoning with the uncomfortable truth that sometimes the deepest bonds can lead not to salvation, but to oblivion. As the sun set over Prague, casting long shadows across the city's timeless stones, the memory of Eliska and Zofie remained, an eternal silence carved into history, a haunting melody that played softly beneath the noise of everyday life. Their story was a warning, a lament, and a mystery, one that would linger in the collective consciousness, a dark twin flame flickering at the edge of understanding, forever entwined with the city that had borne witness to their tragic dance. Their story rippled far beyond the winding alleys and shadowed bridges of Prague, seeping into the very psyche of a city that prided itself on its history of resilience and artistry. Eliska's solitary existence was a testament to the enduring grip of a shared past that refused to loosen its hold. The silence that had once been a shield was now a barrier she struggled to break through, a thick fog that veiled her in isolation even among crowds. Yet within that silence lay an echo of the twin bond, a reminder that her sister's presence was never truly gone. Every step she took was haunted by memories not solely her own, every fleeting emotion intertwined with a ghostly reflection. The police records, once locked away, revealed fragments of a complex psyche, cryptic drawings and coded diaries that seemed less like confessions and more like desperate attempts to communicate across the void. Linguists and psychologists pored over these relics, searching for meaning in the twins' cryptic symbols, hoping to decipher a language born of silence. Was it madness, a hidden language, or a message too dark for words? The city's history itself seemed to intertwine with the twins' fate. Prague, a place where the past and present danced in eternal shadow, where legends breathed life into reality and reality twisted into nightmare. The twins had become a living myth, their tale woven into the tapestry of the city's collective memory. Their silence, once a barrier, became a haunting voice echoing through the centuries, a reminder that some stories refused to end. Survivors of the twins' terror whispered of nightmares, where two pale figures moved as one, their eyes reflecting a depth of darkness that defied comprehension. They spoke of a presence that could infiltrate the mind, a dual force that lured victims into the cold embrace of oblivion. The city's collective fear transformed into a kind of reverence, an acknowledgement that Eliska and Zofie were both human and something otherworldly, a liminal bridge between reality and nightmare. In the years that followed, Eliska sought solace in the quiet corners of Prague, places where the city's heartbeat slowed and shadows lengthened. Her journey was a slow unraveling of the twin bond, an attempt to reclaim individuality from the all-consuming unity that had defined her existence. She engaged with therapists who specialized in rare dissociative disorders, those who understood the complexities of a mind shared between two beings. Through grueling sessions, Eliska confronted memories that were not hers alone, disentangling the threads of shared experiences that had blurred her sense of self. The process was painful, a constant negotiation between loss and discovery, but it offered the faintest glimmer of hope, a chance to live beyond the shadow of the silent sister. Despite this fragile progress, the scars of the past remained etched deep within her. Public opinion was a relentless specter, a constant reminder of the crimes committed in unison, the lives lost, and the innocence shattered. Every glance in the street, every whispered conversation, was a silent judgment. Yet even as the world recoiled, Eliska found strength in solitude and in the rare moments of connection that defied her silence. The legacy of the Silent Twins of Prague became a subject of study and speculation across disciplines: psychology, criminology, folklore, and even theology. Was their bond a form of spiritual possession, a psychological anomaly, a dark pact sealed in childhood innocence corrupted by trauma? Each theory carried with it pieces of truth and layers of myth, reflecting the complexity of a story that refused to be neatly categorized. And so, beneath the cold glow of street lamps and the watchful eyes of gargoyles perched on cathedral walls, Eliska's journey continued, a solitary path marked by the echoes of a shared past and the fragile hope of a future reclaimed from silence. The city breathed around her, a living testament to resilience and the unending dance between light and shadow. In the quiet moments before dawn, when the world seemed suspended between night and day, one could almost hear the faintest whisper of twin footsteps, a reminder that some stories never truly end, and some silences carry the weight of 1,000 words unspoken. Their footsteps, once a synchronized echo of dread, now belonged to only one. Yet the shadow of her sister lingered, a constant companion in a life marked by isolation and reflection. Eliska wandered the narrow streets of Prague with the haunted gaze of someone forever caught between the past and the present, between two selves that had once fused into one terrifying whole. She was a figure of paradox, both survivor and prisoner, a ghost among the living, a voice emerging from silence yet forever shackled to the echo of that silence. The city, with its labyrinth of history and myth, seemed to fold her story into its own, where every stone told a tale, every shadow held a secret. The legacy of the Silent Twins was a mirror to the city's own duality, light and darkness, beauty and horror, the sacred and the profane. Through the long years, Eliska's attempts to untangle herself from the shared consciousness they had formed with Zofie were painstaking and fraught with pain. The journey toward individuation was not just psychological but deeply spiritual, as if she sought to reclaim her soul from the grasp of a bond that had once defined her entire existence. Therapy sessions, long walks through ancient cemeteries, and solitary hours spent reading old manuscripts on mysticism and psychology were her means of grappling with a past that refused to be forgotten. As she slowly pieced together the fragments of her fractured identity, Eliska confronted memories of violence and unity, moments where the lines between victim and perpetrator, love and cruelty, blurred into indistinguishable shades of gray. These memories were not hers alone. They were a shared tapestry woven with her sister's threads, impossible to separate without unraveling herself. Outside the walls of therapy and solitude, the world remained wary, the public's fascination with the twins mingling with a deep-seated fear. The media churned their story endlessly, mythologizing the Silent Sisters into figures of folklore, a cautionary tale of what happens when love becomes obsession and identity dissolves into madness. Yet beneath the sensational headlines and whispered rumors lay the cold facts of a crime that had shattered lives and tested the limits of human understanding. In academic circles, the twins' story sparked heated debates. Were they victims of nature, nurture, or some dark synthesis of both? Could two minds truly become one to such an extent that they acted as a single entity? What did their silence say about the power of unspoken communication and the limits of language? These questions, while intellectually stimulating, could not touch the raw human tragedy at the story's core. As years passed, Eliska's presence in Prague became a quiet legend in itself, a living reminder of the silent twin who had survived, carrying with her the weight of a bond that neither time nor distance could sever. In moments of rare vulnerability, she spoke softly to those few who dared to listen, sharing fragments of a truth too complex and painful for the public gaze. She revealed a world where two minds intertwined so deeply that the loss of one was like the death of a limb, leaving behind a phantom pain that echoed endlessly in the void. The city's ancient stones held their breath, bearing witness to a story of love and madness, unity and destruction, silence and voice. The Silent Twins of Prague had become more than a true crime. They were a haunting melody, a dark poetry written in flesh and blood, etched forever into the soul of a city that knew too well the thin line between history and horror. And as the moon cast its pale light over the winding Vlatvan River, the faintest whisper of twin footsteps could still be heard, a spectral rhythm that spoke of a bond unbroken, a silence that screamed beneath the surface, and a story that would never truly end. The wind stirred softly through the ancient trees lining the riverbanks, carrying with it a chill that seemed to seep into the very bones of the city. It was as if the spirit of the twins, Eliska and Zofie, lingered there, bound forever to the twisting flow of the Vltava, a silent song woven into the fabric of Prague's nights. Eliska moved through these shadows alone now, her presence a fragile thread linking past and present. The weight of her sister's absence was a constant ache, a void filled with memories that blurred the lines between reality and nightmare. She often found herself standing at the water's edge, staring into the dark currents that mirrored the turbulent depths of her mind. In these moments she felt the ghost of Zofie beside her, an unseen but unyielding force, both a source of comfort and torment. Time had softened the sharp edges of the terror that once gripped the city, yet the story of the Silent Twins remained etched in collective memory, a dark legend whispered among the cobblestones and in the flickering candlelight of Prague's hidden corners. The city's ancient churches and forgotten crypts seemed to pulse with the energy of their tale, a reminder that some histories were too unsettling to ever fully fade. Eliska's attempts to reclaim her identity were a quiet rebellion against the suffocating shadow of their shared past. Through art and writing she sought to give shape to the silence that had defined her life. Her drawings, dark and intricate, were windows into a fractured soul, a place where twin faces merged and separated, where silence spoke volumes and where the line between love and madness wavered like a flickering flame. These creations became her voice, a way to confront the darkness without succumbing to it. Yet, even as she tried to forge a new path, the echoes of the past were never far behind. The city's inhabitants, haunted by the memory of the crimes, often recoiled at the mention of her name. Eliska was both a reminder of the fragile veneer of civilization and a testament to the complexities of human nature, the capacity for both profound connection and unfathomable darkness. The Silent Twins story became a mirror reflecting deeper fears and truths about the bonds that bind us, the shadows within the human mind, and the price of secrets kept too long. Researchers continued to study the twins, fascinated by the rare and tragic phenomena their lives represented. Their case challenged conventional understandings of identity and consciousness, forcing a reckoning with the mysteries that lurk beneath the surface of the human psyche. It was a story that defied easy explanation, a haunting enigma that resisted closure. And so, the tale of Eliska and Zofie lived on. Not just as a chronicle of horror, but as a haunting meditation on the power of silence, the ties that both save and destroy us, and the eternal struggle to find oneself in the midst of darkness. The city of Prague, with all its beauty and shadow, remained their silent witness. A place where their story was never truly finished but forever whispered in the stillness between night and dawn, where the silent twins' footsteps echo on, forever intertwined. The river continued its endless flow, indifferent to the turmoil it had witnessed, carrying away secrets but never truly erasing them. Eliska, now older and wearied by time, walked its banks with the quiet dignity of one who carries unseen scars. Each step was a testament to survival. Survival not just of the body, but of a fractured soul still wrestling with the haunting presence of her sister's shadow. Memories came unbidden, moments shared in whispers, synchronized breaths held in the silence that once was their language, the unspoken pact of unity that had bound them so tightly and ultimately undone them. The city, too, seemed to remember. The twisting streets, the heavy stone facades, the ancient alleyways, they held on to the echoes of their footsteps, of their silence, of the violence that had shattered a fragile equilibrium. Those who knew the story spoke of it as a tragedy written in silence, a dark duet between two souls who could not exist apart. As Eliska continued her journey into solitude, she sought understanding beyond the confines of psychology and criminology. She delved into the mysticism that had once fascinated them both, searching for answers in the ancient tomes of Prague's arcane past, hoping to make sense of the inexplicable bond that had defined their lives. The occult had whispered promises of unity and power, of transcending the boundaries of self, promises that had drawn the twins into a spiral of obsession and destruction. In the quiet of forgotten libraries and shadowed chapels, Eliska confronted these dark echoes, seeking to reclaim the fragments of herself lost in the labyrinth of shared madness. Her story became one of fragile redemption, a slow unraveling of the silence that had both protected and imprisoned her. The city, forever intertwined with their tale, remained a living monument to the complexity of human connection, the thin line between love and madness, between unity and annihilation. And so, as night falls over Prague once more, the tale of the silent twins lingers, a whispered secret carried on the cold wind, a haunting reminder that some bonds are too deep, too dark to ever truly be broken. In the stillness, if you listen closely, you might hear the faint echo of twin footsteps, forever walking together in the shadowed heart of a city that refuses to forget. The story of Eliska and Zofie is more than a chilling crime. It's a mirror held up to the darkest corners of the human soul, where love and madness collide in a silence that speaks louder than words. Their footsteps may have faded from the streets of Prague, but their legacy echoes still, reminding us that sometimes the deepest bonds can both save and destroy. In the quiet moments when the world feels still and the shadows grow long, listen closely. You might just hear their silent song, the haunting refrain of two souls forever entwined, forever searching for release in the spaces between life and oblivion. Their story doesn't end here. It lingers a ghostly whisper in the night, waiting to be remembered. And perhaps in remembering we come closer to understanding the fragile, terrifying nature of connection itself.